Hi, this is Marek from Tryb. Today I'd like to tell you more about HEXplore It Volume I, the Valley of the Dead King. Thanks Jonathan Mariucci for sending me this game for review. And this is Volume 1 from the HEXplore It series. We have already three volumes, three parts of this game. The fourth one will be fulfilled from game found this year. It was crowdfunded last year. And the Valley of the Dead King, this is the second edition, because there was already first edition before. This is the upgraded second edition, and this is a fantasy adventure game. You could probably tell it by just looking at the cover of this game. This is a fantasy adventure game where there is this dead king. You can see him on the front of the box, and he wants to destroy all the cities in this land and defeat your heroes and your brave heroes who want to, stop the dead king. But first you have to level up, you have to fight different encounters, different bosses, different enemies. You have to become more powerful to have a chance to kill or defeat the dead king in the final battle. You will move across the land, you will gather different power-ups, different gear, different equipment. You will have to do a lot of various quests. You have bosses, you have enemies, you will visit ruins, shrines, and everything what you can imagine in an adventure RPG fantasy game. The game comes with a lot of content, a lot of components, a lot of classes that you can play. You have a lot of enemies. The fun thing is that you also get dry erase player boards and enemy boards, and you can write on them with markers, and then you can erase it, so you feel a little like playing an RPG game and not just a board game. In a second I will show you how the game looks like, and this will be not an unboxing that I typically do, but I will show you how the game looks when it's set up on the table, so you will get a better idea how the game plays and what you can do in this game. And then after that I will tell you my opinion on HEXplore It and what are my experiences with this game, and what's cool and not about it. Mostly cool. So let me show you how the game looks like. So I had this idea today that instead of showing you typical unboxing with components inside the box, I will show you how the game looks like when it's set up on the table. I think you will have a better idea what specific elements are, what are the cards used for, and everything. So here is the map, and on this map you have your hero. This miniature represents your character or your group, depending if you play solo or not, and you will move across the board visiting different places. You have spaces where bosses, enemies are, you have cities, you have shrines, you have ruins, different elements, different type of terrain, and you will move across the map. The second miniature is the Dead King, and he will walk across the land trying to capture various cities. The more cities he captures, the more powerful he becomes, the faster he moves, and he works like a timer for this game, so you have less and less time, because when he captures all the 6 cities, then he will chase you and fight you in the final battle. What else do we have here? We have 2 decks of cards. This is the quest deck, and you get a lot of different cards, different quests that you must complete in order to gain different benefits, bonuses, and this is the main way to level up your character. Here you have a circumstance deck, and these are different events that can happen every day after you move on the map, and you have different enemies, mostly things that are not really friendly to your character or group. You have enemies, you have like diseases, injuries, and a lot of things. This is also a way to level up your character, because when you have enemies, you see some awards that you get when you, for example, defeat this enemy, or, you know, I will not show you all the cards, but this is the second option and way to advance your character in the game. Here you have your character sheet, and you have different statistics and different masteries. Every class in this game, this is the brute class, has different masteries, and they change the way how you play the game, because every class is completely different from another, and depending on the masteries you need to have different strategies, and you have to play differently in order to fight enemies and, you know, do different things. Some classes are better for combat, other for spells, other for, you know, healing and stuff like this. You always combine the class with race, and the race gives you some starting benefits and adjustments to your attributes, but also a race always gives you some specific ability that you can use in the game. And here, like in an old school RPG, you don't have equipment cards or anything, you just have this dry erase pens, and you can write on your you can erase it, of course. You can write on your character sheet to write down different things like your stats, your equipment, and, you know, how much gold you have, how much food do you have, what is your life energy, and etc. So your goal is to walk around the map, do different quests, fight different monsters, and advance your character and become stronger and stronger in order to defeat the that king. And that king wants to capture all the cities and, you know, kill you. Here you have a few handy like help sheets. They are also like laminated. If you want, you can write on them, and they're very helpful because you can keep them on the table, and you they will tell you what you can do in the cities, what you can buy in the market of cities. This is a second market called Bezel Cork Black Market. It opens after you defeat some bosses. Here you have an info what you can do in the ruins, what you can do in the shrines, and this is very helpful because you don't have to look into the rule book. You just have these sheets, and they tell you what you can do in different places in the game. Here is battle mat that you use to write life points and energy points of your enemies, and you can write everything down when you fight them. On the back side you have different conditions and that can happen during the combat. So it's really helpful having all these help sheets here. You also have, apart from the typical enemies that can be found in encounter deck, you have also the bosses, and they have different levels. The highest level is the Dead King. This is the final boss that you have to defeat, but every boss has some specific attacks. They have more life, more energy. Energy is used to use different masteries in the game, but the bosses give you more rewards, like they upgrade your attribute statistics, they give you more power-ups, more gold, food, and everything. So fighting the bosses is I think the ultimate way to become more powerful and to have a chance to fight that king, because he's got like 180 life points. My character has got 12 life points at this moment, so you can see he's very powerful. You also have this power-up deck, and every time the game tells you to draw a power-up card, you take one of these cards, and this card tells you which attribute you have to raise. So sometimes 2, sometimes 1. So here are the power-ups. We also get these tiles. If you move to a border of the map, you just draw a random tile, and you can put it like this, like here, so the map expands during the game. On these additional tiles you have more like ruins and the more powerful bosses. You can find shrines and everything. So if you want to find all the bosses, you will have to move around the map and expand it to find them on the additional tiles. One more help sheet is here, game turns, movement, skill, circumstance, event, and how the villain behaves. So everything you can have on the table. The game takes some space, as you can see, but having this help sheets is very cool idea. Here we have the rulebook. It's almost 80 pages long, but it's not as big as a regular rulebook, so it's not that bad. But there are a lot of rules that you have to, you know, remember and learn in order to play the game. Not everything is in this rulebook because a lot of things are on this help sheets, and you have to sometimes use the rulebook, sometimes the help sheets. But the game is, I can say, it's quite intuitive. There are a lot of small rules that sometimes you will have to look during the game, and especially that you have to remember more or less what you can do in shrines, cities, ruins, etc. But it's not as complex as it looks. So this is how the Valley of the Dead King looks like on the table. Okay, one more thing here. I have the Peril deck. This is something that comes from the expansion, and here are most difficult enemies that you can encounter during the game, but they give you even more, you know, rewards. This is something that was in the Return to the Valley of the Dead Kings expansion. So now let's go back and I will tell you what I think about HEXplore It Volume I and what is my opinion on this game. This is my third video about HEXplore It game, because I've played the game not in the proper order, because the first one I've played was Volume 4, The Domain of Mirza Noctis, then I played Volume 2, The Forest of Adrimon, and now I've played Volume 1, The Valley of the Dead King, so the order is not as it probably as it should be. But I love the HEXplore It series, and not just because Jonathan sent me this game, but because it's a great fantasy RPG game, and I cannot really think of a better like a big fantasy adventure than this. It's not a campaign game. Every time you play it, it will be different, because the main goal will be the same. You have to defeat that king, but every class you plays differently. You will encounter different enemies. Maybe the bosses are the same, but on your first playthrough you will be not able to probably defeat all the bosses because you don't have that much time in the game. I have an expansion, Return to the Valley of the Dead King, that I will show you at the end of this video quickly. But you have even more classes, even more bosses and more enemies inside. If you mix everything together, there is plenty of content. So as it goes, as for a adventure game where you have a map and you move on the map and you have your characters, your party, your heroes, like a typical fantasy adventure, this is for me #1. And I mean the whole series, not just the Valley of the Dead King. There are a lot of cool other fantasy games like the Killfort series, but Killfort is more like a card game, and this is like a full-blown fantasy RPG experience. The great thing is that you get these dry erase boards, and that you can write on them. It makes you feel like playing an RPG game and not just a simple board game where you have just cards with equipment and you roll dice and you run around the map and kill dozens of enemies. Here you really have to be I don't know how to really explain it, but this game requires you to be more focused and concentrated on the game. For me, it's not the type of game that you can play when you are tired, and you can put it on the table for just 1-2 hours, drink beer with friends, have laugh and play. This is more like a little like work. You have to focus, you have to dedicate yourself to this game, because there are a lot of things that you have to track. You have to track your stats, you have to track your equipment, you have to remember what quest you want to do, where to go, what to do. You need 3 or 4 hours to play this game, probably even more with a bigger player count, and you have to be in this game. It's not something you can do, you know, with one eye watching Netflix and the other playing the game. You have to focus and you have to dedicate yourself to the game, and this game will in return give you a fantastic adventure and fantastic experience. And as I said, there's plenty of content, plenty of quests. This game, the Volume 1, is the simplest of all the HEXplore It games I've played, and always when I write about any HEXplore It volume and a game from HEXplore It series, people ask me which volume is the best one to start your adventure with, and it's hard to say really. I mean, the Valley of the Dead King is the easiest one to get into because it has least rules from all the HEXplore It games I've played, because the game is in its basics not as complex as it seems when you look at all the components. Because basically when every day in this game starts, you have to move somewhere, then you have to roll the dice and you can see if you found some gold and how is your survival abilities, how are if you managed to get where you want or if you wandered somewhere. Then you have different circumstances, different encounters that you can, you know, fight. You have a phase where you can do quests or, you know, visit shrines or cities, fight bosses, and then the Dead King moves. So there are not really that many things to remember as it goes to the basic gameplay, but there are a lot of things that you can do in this game, because this game is more like a sandbox. It's not, the game is not holding you by your hand and guiding you to you know, the final battle, because from the very start of this game you know that you have to defeat the Dead King, but how will you do it and how will you get to the point where your character or your party is strong enough? It's up to you, because you can fight bosses, or you can do more quests, or you can focus on fighting different enemies, you can buy better gear, you can go to ruins, or you can completely not visit ruins. It's all up to you. So this is more like a sandbox game, and because there are so many options, you have to, you know, remember what things you can do in different places and what benefits you can gain from different, you know, elements of this game. I think this is the difficult part of HEXplore It, because in other adventure games I've played, like, let's say, I don't know, Journeys in the Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings game, you have a scenario and, you know, the game like guides you where you should go, what you should do, and it's like riding on, you know, in a train on rails. And this is HEXplore It. It's not like that. It's more, as I said before, it's more like an RPG. So you start in a city, you know that there is this Dead King, but where will you go and what will you do is completely up to you. So in the first volume, the Valley of the Dead King, there are not as many options. I mean, there are a lot of options, but not as many as in the other volumes. So if you want the easiest game to learn the HEXplore It system, the Valley of the Dead King is a good choice. But if you want a game that may be, for example, a little harder to learn but will give you more options in the future, I think the Forest of Adrimon is the sweet spot. Because there is the third game, I have it on the shelf behind me, I haven't played it yet, The Sands of Shurax. And Sands of Shurax, the Volume 3, is the most complex one, and a lot of people said that it's so complex that it's almost overwhelming with all the options that players have in this game. So I think the Volume 2, Forest of Adrimon, is, if you want just one HEXplore It game from the 3 available right now, Volume 2 is the best one. But if you think that you would like to have maybe all the games, or you suspect that you might like HEXplore It a lot and you will try to buy also the other volumes, then Volume 1, The Valley of the Dead King, is the best way to start. Because you will learn the basics, you will learn the combat, you will learn how the characters sheets work and everything. And then when you get to Volume 2, it plays differently. Because, okay, all the volumes, even though they share the same basic system, they feel like different games. I've played 3 of them, and even though the basic rules are the same. There are so many different things in the games that are different from each other, but it's not like Volume 2 is the same as Volume 1, just with different art. No, they are completely different and they have different feel. But if you think that you will, if you want to start HEXplore It Adventure and you want to get more games from the series, Volume 1 is the best one to start. The game is a little tense because the Dead King moves around the map, destroying cities, and the more cities he destroys, the less options to buy, for example, the things from the market you have. You can reclaim the cities, but it's not so easy. So it's a little stressful because you see him moving around, and the more cities he destroys, captures, the faster he moves. For example, in Volume 2, the Forest of Advertisement, Advertisement was the main boss. She was sitting in a city, not moving at all, so you had like more freedom to move around the map. But it's cool. I don't know. Probably if you've seen my previous videos about HEXplore It, every time I make a movie about HEXplore It, I'm saying the same things. But my opinion hasn't changed. It's a great, fantastic fantasy adventure game. One of the best I've played, and if you like fantasy, if you like games where you are heroes trying to become stronger, more powerful by doing different quests, fighting enemies, this is great. The video will be probably long as always with HEXplore It. Sorry. I have two more things here. One is the Return to the Valley of the Dead King. It's an expansion for this game. Every HEXplore It game has an expansion. There's always Return to and the Forest of Advertisement, Return to the Sands of Shurax. And in this expansion you will find even more character classes that you can, play. They have cool art on the back, and you have new bosses that you can find. You can mix this expansion with the base game, and you will have more variety in this game. There's also this cool thing that you can play as the Dead King, so you will have a one versus all mode, so when one player plays as the Dead King and the rest of players try to fight him. You have a rule book, you have new cards, new power-ups that you can add to the base game, like new events, new quests, new circumstances, so more and more content. You have the full deck of cards for the Dead King if one of the players chooses to play him, more races, some legendary items, a lot of cool things. The expansion is not necessary, but it's really good, and if you want even more variety in this game, you can buy it because it's good. There's also something called Living Card Deck that I have, and this is a deck of cards that adds peril cards that are even more dangerous encounters that you can find in this game, and some quests, free like story quests branching with different cards. And when you combine all of this together, you have, I don't know, plenty of gameplay, and you will really have fun exploring the HEXplore It game. Thank you for watching. Click the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel. You can visit my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. You will find links in the description of this video. There you will find even more photos and reviews. I will try to record to make a video about Volume 3, The Sands of Shurax, because this is the only volume I haven't made a video about yet. I'm not sure when I will manage to do it because this game is massive, but I cannot wait to play it. So thank you again for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.